You ever wonder why some people just move differently? Why they seem unstoppable? Like nothing slows them down. They're not smarter than you. They're not more talented. But here's the truth most won't admit. They killed something inside themselves that you're still feeding: laziness. See, laziness doesn't walk around screaming its name. It whispers. It tells you to hit snooze just 10 more minutes. It says you deserve a break today. It masks itself as self-care when you haven't even earned the exhaustion. It looks like comfort. It feels like peace, but it's poison. And the longer you let it live, the more it steals from you. You're not here watching this by accident. Something in you knows you're capable of more. But knowing means nothing if you're still sitting on your potential, scrolling through motivation instead of becoming it. So here's the question. How much longer are you gonna let laziness dictate the terms of your life? How many more mornings will you wake up with dreams and go to bed with nothing but excuses? You don't need another inspirational quote. You need a fight. You need to get ruthless with the part of you that makes excuses, that delays, that avoids. Because the version of you that has everything you want, they're already out there, working, training, moving, while you're still deciding whether or not to get up. This isn't a pep talk. It's a wake-up call. And by the end of this, if you're still comfortable, you weren't listening. Let's go. Laziness isn't a personality trait. It's not something you were born with. It's not a flaw in your DNA. Laziness is a story, a lie you tell yourself to avoid, the truth that you're choosing comfort over commitment. You say you're tired. You say you're overwhelmed. You say, I'll start tomorrow. But here's the thing, tomorrow never shows up for people who keep negotiating with themselves. What you're calling laziness is often fear in disguise. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being good enough. So instead of confronting that fear, you back off, you scroll, you distract, you procrastinate and pretend you're just not feeling it today. But deep down, you could be doing more. You know you've got energy. You just don't want to spend it doing hard things because laziness doesn't feel like a monster. It feels like safety. It feels like soft pillows and short naps and I'll get to it later. It feels like quiet quitting on yourself every single day while convincing the world that you're fine, that you're just going through something, that you're waiting for the right time, the right plan, the right alignment of stars. Let's call it what it really is: avoidance. You avoid the gym not because you're lazy, but because you're afraid you won't keep up. You avoid the work because you're afraid of messing it up. You avoid the difficult conversation, the application, the big leap, because there's a part of you that's more comfortable with inaction than it is with the risk of failure. So what do? You craft a narrative. You tell yourself you're just a laid-back person, that you work better under pressure, that you need to wait until you're in the right mindset. You decorate your laziness with fancy words to make it sound reasonable. You turn it into something noble, even. But here's the truth. Excuses are always dressed in your voice. That inner dialogue telling you it's okay to relax, to skip, to wait. It sounds like you, and because it sounds like you believe it. But laziness doesn't care about your dreams. It doesn't care about your goals, your promises, your potential. It only cares about right now. It only cares about keeping you safe from discomfort. It wants you silent, small, still. And the more you feed it, the more it takes. First it steals your mornings, then your goals, then your confidence, then your identity. And suddenly you look in the mirror and don't even recognize yourself. Because what started as just one lazy day turned into a habit, a mindset, a lifestyle. People think motivation is the answer, that if they just felt more inspired, they'd get moving. But that's another lie. You're not lazy because you lack motivation. You're lazy because you've trained yourself to obey comfort. You've built a routine around the path of least resistance, and now that path feels like home. You don't rise when it's time. You wait. You don't take action. You hesitate. And every time you do, you reinforce the idea that you're someone who needs to feel ready before you act. But action doesn't follow motivation. Motivation follows action. You don't get out of bed because you feel like it. You get up because you made a choice. You move because you refuse to let your day be dictated by feelings. And when you move, you build momentum. And momentum is what makes the impossible feel possible. That's how winners are made. Not by talent, not by luck, but by killing the voice that says, not today. You want to talk about the real cost of laziness? It's not the missed tasks or the dirty dishes or the skipped workout. It's the erosion of trust. Every time you say, I'll do it tomorrow and don't, you're proving to yourself that your word means nothing. And if you can't trust yourself, who will? That's the silent damage. That's what laziness really robs you of. Not productivity, but identity. Because you can't be proud of work you didn't do. You can't build self-respect on a foundation of avoidance. You want self-esteem? Earn it. Every day. In the grind. In the decision to move. When you don't want. In the rejection of that soft inner voice that tells you to sit down when you need to stand up. So stop saying you're lazy. You're not lazy. You've just let the wrong voice take control. The voice that wants comfort. The voice that wants ease. But inside you, there's another voice. The one that remembers who you could be if you just stopped lying to yourself. You want freedom? Start with truth. Admit that you're not lazy. Admit that you're choosing not to act. And then choose something different. Nobody's coming to save you from your own excuses. You have to kill them yourself. One decision at a time. One action at a time. One battle with that inner voice. One. Again and again. Until you no longer flinch at the work. Until you no longer identify with weakness. Until laziness has no room left in your life. You think you're safe there. In your little bubble of routine. Waking up at the same time, doing the same things, scrolling the same apps, talking to the same people, avoiding the same discomfort. It feels manageable, predictable. You know what to expect. You know what not to expect. That's the comfort zone. And it's killing you slowly. The comfort zone isn't comfort. It's quiet decay. It's where your dreams go to rot while you wrap yourself in routine and convince yourself you're doing okay. You're not okay. You're bored, you're stuck, you're unchallenged, and deep down, a part of you knows it. You're not tired from overexerting yourself. You're tired from the weight of unrealized potential. The exhaustion you feel at the end of the day isn't physical. It's psychological. It's the wear and tear of all the things you didn't do. All the things you avoided. The risks you didn't take. The words you didn't speak. The version of you that you keep ignoring. Comfort is seductive because it pretends to care about you. It tells you that safety is enough. That consistency is the goal. That things don't need to change. But it's lying. Safety is not the goal. Growth is. And growth doesn't happen when you're cruising. It happens in resistance. In challenge, in failure. It happens in that moment when your heart races and your brain screams, I can't, and you do it anyway. Your comfort zone is a cage because it has boundaries, and every day you choose to live within those boundaries, you reinforce the belief that anything outside them is too much for you. You shrink, not physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you get used to it. You normalize it. You look around and say, well, this is just how life is. No, this is how you've allowed life to become. No one ever achieved greatness by staying safe. No one ever built a life worth remembering from a place of emotional security. You think the people you admire got there by sticking to what was easy. No. They outgrew their comfort. They trained their minds to lean into discomfort, to see risk not as something to fear, but as a requirement. And the more they leaned in, the more they realized that what they thought was fear was freedom. See, most people avoid growth because they think struggle means something is wrong. But what if it means something is right? What if struggle is the only path to strength? What if every time you feel fear, it's actually a signal that you're about to step into a version of you that you haven't met yet? But no, you back off. You feel that fear rise, and instead of walking into it, you retreat. You tell yourself you're not ready. You say, I'm just not that kind of person. And that becomes your identity. You don't challenge your comfort zone. You build a life inside it. A tiny little world where everything is predictable and controllable and dull. And don't get it twisted. Comfort doesn't mean peace. Comfort means stagnation. You might not feel the pain now, but wait 5 years, 10. Look back and realize you stayed exactly where you were while time kept moving forward. That's the cost. The longer you stay comfortable, the more it costs you later. Regret is the bill you pay for refusing to evolve. You want to know why you're stuck? It's because you're still trying to grow without discomfort. That's not how this works. You don't get to be strong without resistance. You don't get confidence without failure. You don't get courage without fear. You don't get better without pain. And if you're not willing to feel that pain, you're not willing to change. You're just talking, wishing, watching others, cheering them on while you sit in your cell, made of familiar choices and self-imposed limits. You need to get uncomfortable on purpose. You need to put yourself in rooms where you don't feel like the smartest person. You need to start things you don't know how to finish. You need to show up before you feel ready. And you need to stop waiting for comfort to go away before you move. It won't. It'll always be there. Whispering, pulling, luring you back into what's easy. But easy is the enemy. Easy is what you've been doing. Easy is what got you here. If you want something different, you need to be someone different. And that only happens in the unknown, the uncertain, the difficult. You think breaking out of your comfort zone is a dramatic leap. It's not. It's a decision, a small, deliberate, uncomfortable decision repeated daily. It's saying yes to the challenge instead of avoiding it. It's opening your mouth when you're nervous. It's showing up when your brain gives you every reason to stay home. It's refusing to let the fear of discomfort dictate the size of your life. So ask yourself, are you growing or are you hiding? Are you stretching your limits or reinforcing your cage? Are you building a life or just existing in one? Because here's the truth you won't hear often. No one breaks out of their comfort zone by accident. You have to choose to walk into the fire. And when you do, you find out the fire doesn't burn you. It forges you. It reveals what you're made of. It shows you that everything you've been avoiding is exactly what you need to become who you were meant to be. So step out, not next month, not tomorrow, now, before the cage gets so familiar you forget you're even trapped. You think discipline is something you either have or you don't. That some people were just born with the ability to wake up at 5 a.m., crush their goals, follow strict diets, and show up even when they don't feel like it. You look at them and you tell yourself, they're just built different, but they're not. That's a myth. Discipline isn't in your blood, it's in your choices. And most importantly, it's not a feeling, it's a skill. Feelings are inconsistent. They rise and fall with your mood, with the weather, with the people around you, with how well you slept, with what someone said to you last night. Feelings are unreliable. They're not designed to lead, they're designed to respond. And yet, most people live their lives based on how they feel in the moment. You feel tired, so you skip the workout. You feel uninspired, so you procrastinate. You feel uncomfortable, so you back out. You think that means something. You think it means it's not the right time, or the right move, or the right energy. But here's what it really means. You've given control of your life to your emotion. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's not waiting for the stars to align or for your vibe to be high. It doesn't pause because you're stressed or tired or not in a mood. Discipline shows up anyway. Because discipline isn't based on motivation. It's based on commitment. Motivation is a rush, a dopamine hit, a wave of energy that makes you feel unstoppable for about 20 minutes. But what happens when that wave crashes? That's where most people quit. That's where most people say, I'll get back on track tomorrow. But the people who win, they build systems. They don't hope to feel good. They train themselves to move forward no matter what. And yes, it is training. Discipline is a skill. That means it's learned, practiced, repeated. And yes, it's hard. At first, It's going to feel unnatural. You're going to have to force yourself to act. You're going to argue with your own mind. You're going to try to rationalize laziness. You'll hear every excuse echo. Inside you, you deserve a break. You've been working hard. You'll do better if you wait till you feel ready. But those are just defense mechanisms. Mental tricks to keep you inside your comfort zone. You want to be disciplined? Start with one thing. Keep the promises you make to yourself. That's it. You say you're going to wake up at 6 a.m. Wake up. No negotiation. You say you're going to hit the gym. Go, even if you just walk through the doors and lift the bare minimum. You say you're going to write for an hour. Study, learn, build, move. Do it. And not because it feels good. Do it especially when it doesn't. That's the rep. That's how you build it, because every time you act against how you feel and move in alignment with your goals, you reinforce that you're in control. Not your mood, not your anxiety, not your excuses. And here's the part no one wants to hear. It's supposed to suck at first. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. That's what training feels like. It's work, mental work, emotional work. You're rewiring the way you think and respond. You're changing the default settings of your brain. You're teaching yourself to be the kind of person who doesn't wait for motivation to take action. And that takes time. That takes repetition. And most of all, that takes showing up on the days you don't feel like it. Let's be real. How many times have you waited to feel ready and nothing changed? How many ideas, goals, plans, and promises have you buried under the phrase, I don't feel like it? That's where your potential dies, not in failure but in delay. Because waiting to feel ready is the fastest way to stay stuck. Readiness doesn't come before action. Readiness follows action. It's the result of momentum, not the requirement for it. Look at it this way. When you first learned to drive, it was stressful. You had to think about everything. Mirrors, pedals, lights, traffic. It was awkward, unnatural. You probably made mistakes. But over time, with practice, it became second nature. You trained that skill. Discipline is the same. At first, it takes all your focus. But the more you practice, the more automatic it becomes. Not easier, just more familiar. And eventually, you stop needing to force it. It becomes who you are. And once it becomes who you are, everything changes. Because now you're not relying on motivation. Now your habits carry you, your standards carry you, your identity carries you. You don't ask yourself, do I feel like it? You ask, what needs to get done? And you do it. That's what separates the achievers from the wishers, the builders from the dreamers. It's not talent. It's not intelligence. It's not passion. It's the skill of showing up over and over without applause, without drama, without needing the perfect mood. And no, this doesn't mean you become robotic. It doesn't mean you never rest or that you suppress your emotions. It means you lead with intention, not impulse. It means you design your life instead of reacting to it. It means you put your goals at the center and let your actions orbit around them, no matter what kind of day you're having. So next time you say you're not disciplined, stop. That's not a diagnosis. It's a decision, and it can be changed. Discipline isn't something you wait to feel. It's something you train, something you choose, something you pewed, brick by uncomfortable brick, until it becomes stronger than your excuses. And when that happens, you become unstoppable, not because every day feels easy, but because you've finally stopped caring whether or not it does. You do it every day, sometimes without even realizing it. You open your eyes in the morning, and the first conversation you have isn't with the world, it's with yourself. That little voice creeps in and says, 5 more minutes won't hurt. You don't even argue with it. You just accept the delay. You bargain, you rationalize, you negotiate. And just like that, the first battle of your day, you've already lost it. You think it's harmless, you think it's small, but that moment, it's everything. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. And the second you start negotiating with yourself, you've already given up power. You've already said, my feelings matter more than my goals. You've given emotion the steering wheel and left discipline in the back seat. And here's what most people won't admit. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You need to stop giving yourself options when there's work to be done. You need to stop entertaining that second voice that wants to delay, to distract, to justify laziness as rest and procrastination as self-care. Because every time you negotiate with yourself, you teach your brain one dangerous thing. My word isn't final. That's how people become unreliable to themselves. That's how discipline erodes, not in dramatic failures, but in small hesitations, in daily compromises, in inner deals you make with yourself that slowly chip away at your standards. I'll go to the gym, but maybe later. I'll start the project once I feel ready. I'll eat clean after this one cheat meal. I'll work on myself when I have more time. Do you hear it? That language? That's the sound of mental negotiation. And you think you're being reasonable. But what you're really doing is postponing your own potential. You don't need to feel like doing it. You need to do it anyway. Because the feelings that are holding you back, they're temporary. But the damage they do when you obey them, that sticks. That piles up. That builds a life you don't want to live in. You want self-respect. You want confidence. You want that sense of inner power that nobody can take from you. It starts by killing the negotiation. When the alarm goes off, get up. No debate, no story, no inner dialogue. Just move. Why? Because that act right there, that 1 second of doing what you said you would do, is how discipline is built. Not in hype, not in inspiration, but in decisive action, when it would be easier to wait. And let's be clear, discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. And consistency is only possible when you stop arguing with your own standards. When you say, I'm going to do this, and then you do it, not because it's easy, not because it's fun, but because that's who you are now. That's the switch people miss. They think discipline is about pain or suffering or punishment. No, it's about identity. It's about becoming someone who does what needs to be done, regardless of how they feel. It's about taking feelings off the table and replacing them with decisions. Unshakable, non-negotiable decisions. Because when you stop negotiating, something shifts. You gain clarity. Your path becomes simpler. You don't waste energy wondering if you're going to do the thing. You just do it. And that freed up energy, that mental bandwidth, that's where focus, creativity, and growth live. That's where confidence comes from, not from thinking, but from following through. And don't kid yourself, this is hard, especially in a world that constantly encourages you to be gentle with yourself, to listen to your body, to take breaks whenever you need. That message sounds compassionate, but if you're not careful, it becomes a trap. Because what you often need isn't another break. It's to push through the resistance. What you need is to remind yourself that you are in charge of your choices, and your choices create your life. So stop making deals with the version of you that wants to stay small. Stop giving airtime to the voice that's driven by fear, laziness, and doubt. That voice doesn't want your success. It wants your comfort. And your comfort zone is the most expensive place you'll ever live. Because every dream you let die there costs you. The truth is, the life you want is already possible. The results you crave are already within reach. But they require a version of you who doesn't flinch, who doesn't pause when it's time to act, who doesn't keep debating what they've already decided. When you say, I'm going to build this business, there's no follow-up sentence, like unless I'm tired. When you say, I'm going to get in shape, there's no clause like unless I feel sore today. When you say, I'm going to show up, you don't leave room for excuses. That's how leaders are made. That's how warriors are built. That's how lives are changed, not by emotion, not by waiting for perfect timing, but by commitment repeated daily, especially when it's inconvenient. So next time your alarm goes off, next time you stare at your to-do list, next time you feel resistance, don't negotiate, act, move. Decide, be the person who follows through, not the one who debates. Because if you stop negotiating with yourself, you stop losing to yourself. And that's when everything changes. Burn the excuses or burn your potential. It's that simple. that raw, that urgent. Every time you say, I would, Apollos is not a reason. It's a barrier you've accepted. It's a story you're telling yourself to stay small. You say you don't have time as if you're the only person on earth with a full plate. You say you're tired, but what you really mean is unmotivated. You say you're not ready, but readiness doesn't come before the leap. It comes from the leap. You are not limited by your circumstances. You are limited by your excuses. Excuses feel safe. They're comfortable. They let you off the hook. They give you a reason to sit still when you should be moving. They're protection for your ego because it's easier to say, I couldn't, than to admit, I did. It's easier to blame your job, your family, your childhood, your environment, your past, anything but the real truth. You chose not to show up. You chose to let the excuse win. And the more you feed those excuses, the more you condition yourself to believe them. They become your identity. I'm just not a morning person. I've always had a slow metabolism. I'm too old to start now. I don't know where to begin. It sounds like logic. It sounds reasonable. But all it really is surrender. You're building a life on reasons not to try, not to change, not to fight. You say things like when the timing is right, but let's be honest. You're not waiting for the timing. You're waiting for the fear to go away, for the resistance to vanish, for the process to feel easier. But here's the truth. That moment never comes. Growth never arrives. Gift wrapped in comfort. You don't stumble into your potential. You have to fight for it, bleed for it, burn for it. Every excuse you keep is a trade-off. And what you're trading is your future. Every time you say, I can't, you give away a piece of what you could be. You hand it over. You toss it aside in exchange for a fleeting moment of safety. But safety doesn't build anything. It doesn't create, it doesn't move, it doesn't transform. You want transformation, then something's gotta give, something's gotta burn. So ask yourself this, which matters more, your excuses or your potential? Because one has to die, one has to be sacrificed. If you're gonna keep making excuses, then you need to let go of your goals. You don't get to talk about your dreams and still make space for your excuses. You don't get to want greatness and still cling to the reasons it's not happening. That's not how it works. You want change? Then get real, get uncomfortable, and stop playing both sides. Burn the excuse that says you don't have time. You have time, you just choose to spend it elsewhere. You have 24 hours like everyone else, and where you spend it reveals what you actually care about. If you say you want it but you're not making space for it, you don't want it, you like the idea of it. You like the image of success without the sacrifice. Burn the excuse that says you're not ready. Nobody starts ready. You don't train for the marathon by reading about running. You get out and move. You make mistakes, you fall, you adjust, but you start. Readiness is a product of movement, not a prerequisite for it. Burn the excuse that says it's not the right time. There is no perfect time. There is only now. And if you keep waiting for a sign, here it is. This is it. This is the wake-up call. This is the moment when you choose whether to keep feeding the narrative of delay or to finally disrupt it. Burn the excuse that says I've failed before. You're supposed to fail. Failure is not a red light. It's a sign you're actually in the game. You think the people you admire never failed? No. They just stopped letting failure define them. They used it. They learned. They grew. They failed forward. And burn the excuse that says it's too late. No, it's not. You're still breathing. That means there's still time. There's still ground to gain. The only thing keeping you from starting is the lie that it's over before it even began. Age doesn't disqualify you. Time doesn't disqualify you. Quitting does. So here's the bottom line. Burn the excuses or burn your potential. There's no middle ground, no gray area. You either move forward or stay stuck. You either face the discomfort or hide behind it. You either take control or let life pass you by while you tell stories about why it's not your fault. But let me ask you something real. something no one else will. Are you really okay with wasting your life on reasons? Are you really okay being the one who could have done something but didn't? Who talked about change but never lived it? Who had potential but let it rot in the name of convenience? Because every day you feed those excuses, that's exactly who you're becoming. And you have a choice right now to change that. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Burn the excuses, starve them, strip them of power, replace them with action. Small steps, every single day. Show up, do the work. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, because the life you want is built through discipline, not drama, through choices, not chances. No one's coming to save you. No one's gonna walk in and take the excuses from your mouth. You have to do that. You have to choose what burns. Excuses or potential. One will destroy you. The other will define you. Choose wisely. So here it is, the line in the sand. You've heard enough. You've told yourself enough stories. You've justified enough delays. You've waited long enough for a feeling that was never going to come. Now the truth is staring you down. Laziness isn't something that happens to you. It's something you've allowed, and it ends when you decide it does. This isn't about hype. This is about ownership. Your life, the shape of it, the results of it, the energy of it, is not built in the big moments. It's built in the small ones, the unseen ones, the quiet decisions you make when no one's watching and you have a choice to make. Keep playing nice with laziness. Keep entertaining the excuses or kill it. Kill the negotiation, kill the hesitation, kill the part of you that wants comfort more than progress. Because every single day, laziness is trying to convince you to do nothing, to stay still, to give in. But you're done listening. You're done apologizing for not being perfect. You're done delaying the life you know you're capable of building. You're not fragile. You're not helpless. You're not just wired this way. You are capable of doing hard things. You are capable of discipline. And every time you act in defiance of your laziness, every time you show up, every time you get uncomfortable, you get stronger. Not just physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You build the muscle that matters most. So decide right now, the old version of you, the one who waited, who doubted, who negotiated, is done. They had their time. And now it's your turn. Your time to rise, to act, to move forward, no matter how you feel. This isn't about doing everything. This is about doing what you said you'd do, showing up when it's inconvenient, sticking to it when no one's clapping. That's how you kill laziness. Not with speeches, not with motivation, but with action. Repeated, relentless, unapologetic. So go. Right now. Don't overthink. Don't stall. Don't scroll. Move. Do. Build. Create. Grind. Take the first step and then the next. And then don't stop. Laziness dies today because you finally stopped feeding it and started becoming the person you were always meant to be. Relentless, disciplined, untouchable. Let's go.